Here we go. Hello, everyone. Hello. Let's see. I hope uh those that um were celebrating had a very good holiday. If not, at the very least, a nice break if you got off. Um, let's see. Okay, awesome. But thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Monday. I can't believe we're almost at the end of November. It's going so fast. I feel this year has definitely gone incredibly quickly in comparison. I don't know if it's just because I've been working working so much. But I definitely feel, yeah, like it was very quick. It was very quick. I don't know if that happened with anybody else. But thank you for tuning in and welcome. I have a little class today about Kalanchoes. Just moving some stuff around here. All right, I can scooch my. Here we go. Brian has we were watering his alocasia, and he has this really beautiful alocasia longoloba living on my desk now. Um, and so I have to scooch her back. She's a pretty large plant. Um, and she's getting a new leaf. So hold on here. So when she came with some damage on two leaves. So those were chopped back. I'm gonna let them kind of shrivel up a little bit more. But she's already coming out with this leaf, and all of these are new. So she's been pretty happy hanging out on my desk. Um, so we'll keep it going. But yeah, no, looks great. These might actually be their own plants. Let's see. So there might be another corm in there. Oh, thank you, Brian. Um, there might be another corm. So these might be separate plants actually. So I know there's at the very least there's these two here. So these might be separate corms rather than new growth from the base. Alocasias are pretty awesome. I think they're very interesting interesting species. There we go. All right. The the only downside is they is guttation. So if anyone's not familiar with guttation, so that is when a plant takes up water and it wants to release some excess water that it took up. So after watering, so what it does is it will literally leak the water out of the leaves. And so they'll kind of come out from, I believe they come out from the stomata on the under, on the, I think it's the stomata. I think it's the stomata. But they basically kind of, it comes out uh, and it starts to kind of collect because water adheres to itself. And so it starts to kind of travel down to the very tip of the leaf until it has like a really big drop and then it just drops. And so we had it in our entryway when we were acclimating it, and it was on the table, so it was much taller than me. I'm only 5'1", so I'm tiny. And I kept feeling like I was getting hit with water droplets, and I thought there was like a leak on the ceiling or something. So I was like looking up, and I'm like, "Where's the water coming from?" And then I realized it was coming from the alocasia. And then we have since moved the alocasia to the desk now where it's doing really well. But ever so often I put my hand down or I put my phone and there's like a random drop of water on it. And I'm mentioning this because that's what just happened. So you could see the water, the drop of water that is currently on my phone. This water was from that plant right now. So it just it surprises you quite literally. But Hi, Deanna. Welcome. It's always nice to see you. I love seeing like all the familiar names and the familiar faces, truly. All right, so let me see. Yeah, I just wanted to introduce you to some Kalanchoes, to just a little bit about their care. Absolutely, I love Kalanchoes. And I actually learned something new when I was researching about because at the end I wanted to mention some of like the traditional uses for kalanchoe. So kalanchoe has been used for medicine, but I was not aware that there's this other species that is primarily grown in Brazil that is also being used pretty interchangeably with one that's being used in Costa Rica, for instance, um, that I saw when I was there, and um, it was just cool to see. I actually have a book here that I got from Costa Rica. I think it was page 62, 64. Let me see which page was it. Was it? Oh no, it wasn't this book. Hold on. I have like three books from Costa Rica and I realized I left it at the other table. Here we go. This is the book. I did get this book in Costa Rica. It's called Tropical Trees of Costa Rica, but in Spanish. But this one is Medicinal Plants of Costa Rica, which what's crazy is that this book was $80 if I wanted to buy it here. But when I went to Costa Rica, it was only $12. So I'm glad I waited and bought it directly from the source. Um, Here we go. So this Kalanchoe panada. So this is one that you see all over Costa Rica. And it's one that's also being used in El Salvador. And they also call it life everlasting. So that's a common name for it is life everlasting. There's also other common names like miracle leaf, for instance. So yeah, I was using this book in my research and I was trying to find some studies, and so there's studies on antioxidant compounds in kalanchoes, um, and these anti-cancer compounds, and then I found out that there's a this other species. It's like a Braziliensis, Braziliensis, something like that. Yeah. Oh yes, Holly. Yes, I did get a haircut. I did. So it was a trim, and some some touch ups to the layers. Yeah. Um, yeah, it was looking a little crazy, so I had to get it polished up a little bit. But thank you for noticing. I literally woke up and I was like, oh gosh, I just kind of fluffed it and put my headphones on. So I was hoping I didn't look absolutely crazy. Because I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna like blow dry it or anything. So it's a little wavy. But yeah, I wasn't aware of that other species. Um, and I knew that Kalanchoe, is toxic. It's especially toxic in the flowers, and so that's why you know this whole thing of finding out that it's being used in this way is very interesting. But of course, it's compounds that are being extracted from the kalanchoe, um, and in some cases, yes, people are literally taking the kalanchoe and kind of putting them in the blender, essentially. um, but yeah, no, it's very different. Uh, they're not giving folks like super large doses or anything like that, but the research is pretty cool to check out. So, um, But yeah, I just wanted to introduce folks to some Kalanchoes and some care tips. So let me put here. Go to Zoom, share screen. All right. But yeah, I hope uh I hope everyone's week is off to a good start. I'm hoping this week is good and I can wrap up stuff feeling pretty good. So hoping hoping to be a very productive week. So I can wrap up this month with a bang. All right, so let me move my pictures up here. Haha. All right, cool. So welcome, as the image suggests. Um, yeah, welcome to another Urban Garden Learning series. And let's see. So today, I wanted to just give you the quick rundown on Kalanchoe. Um, Now this Kalanchoe that you're seeing in this video is Windows Thrill. So these are fairly common Kalanchoes. These are probably the most common Kalanchoes that you're going to be seeing in supermarkets, at garden centers, especially during like the holidays, early spring. These come in an array of colors. So you'll see them in yellows, in light pinks, dark pinks, reds. Reds are very common. Um, I've seen just some really beautiful yellows, really, really beautiful colors. Um, and they have these clusters of blooms, and even the flowers themselves, you'll see some that are pretty simple, just have a couple petals, and some of these that have been bred to really have like a really nice rosette. So it's just a lot of petals, really gorgeous. You can see why the common name is Windows Thrill. They have these scalloped leaves, they're very large. um, and what tends to happen with these is that folks do end up overwatering them a lot. Um, so they do have very thin leaves, and they do require to be, they don't want to be neglected necessarily, but at the same time, they would rather start to dry out a little bit before you start watering them again. Um, but these are fairly common. So this might be very familiar when when I say Kalanchoes. Now, a lot of people actually call these calanchos. So that might be how you know it. That's another pronunciation. Um, in in botanical Latin class, when I was learning more about botanical Latin, uh, the Choes, it for us, you pronounce it like Chloe, so it's like so Callan Coes, like Chloe's. Um, but in the common tongue, right? It's become very popular to refer to them as calanchos. So if it's one is not better than the other. Latin is technically a dead language. So it's really whatever you're comfortable with. Um, you'll just run into my teacher specifically, which is I think why she had chosen to teach botanical Latin. I feel like I'm much more relaxed when I teach botanical Latin, um, but she was a very much a stickler for that. So I was trying to make her proud. Let me see here. All right. Okay. The Kalanchoes. They honestly come in all shapes and sizes. I'm gonna show you a couple of mine, and I'll show you some here. You'll see some in these images. Uh, you'll honestly find them. They're seriously so many different colors, so many different shapes. There are some that are much closer to the ground. Um, this one here is a little etiolated, so this one's a little stretched. But it's, that's it doesn't take away from it. It's really, really cool looking. They're really beautiful. The edges, usually they have these really beautiful edges. It's very common to see kind of like a scalloped edge. You might know other kalanchoes like what they call the panda plant. The panda plant. So that is for the really furry ones with like the black tips on the leaves. That's a kalanchoe. Also, chocolate soldier. Chocolate soldier. That's also a kalanchoe. So you probably are fairly common with them. You maybe just didn't realize that they were a kalanchoe, and they are related to chryssulas, and so that's also something that tends to happen is that folks might see this, let's say, among a bunch of different types of chryssulas, and then assume that, oh, this is just a chryssula rather than a kalanchoe. And that's an easy mistake to make because if you look at chryssulas, like jade plants and things, they have a very similar look. So um, so technically they are related, so you're not too far off. Um, they're very cool group of plants. And there's over 120 species, and there's so many available. Like chryssulas, there's just so many varieties available in the horticultural sphere. Um, for some groups of plants, maybe they have, like 100 different species, but maybe only a dozen are readily available on the market that have been like, or are being successfully grown and propagated and sold as house plants. Uh, but this group of plants, there's so many. There's a lot to pick from. So I know you would find something that you would very much enjoy. They are native to South Africa and Madagascar. However, they have been introduced to so many places in Asia and here in the United States. They've actually become quite invasive, and so there are some kind of like it's illegal. It's illegal in some states. So, for instance, in California, um, there are some advisories, for instance, that you're not allowed to have them outside. In some places, some counties, you can't even purchase it. It's not legal to purchase kalanchoes, especially because there are certain species that um, have this habit of creating, so they create babies along the edges of their leaves. Now, not all kalanchoes do this. There's just a couple, like Mother of Millions, Mother of Thousands, if you're familiar with those. So they make all these babies right on the edge of the leaf that readily drop. They create a little root system and then they drop, and you might end up finding them in like different pots. And this can happen in a garden space. And so it's very, very quickly, if if the environment is favorable for these to take over. And so it's understandable why they're listed as being invasive in some parts here, especially it's like out in this isn't too big of an issue here on the East Coast because it gets very cold and they don't survive the winters. But like in some parts of like the Midwest and into the South and the West, yeah, it, they'll make it. They'll make it. And so um, it can be disastrous though to the native ecosystems. They're also all over when you go to different parts of Central America. This is a plant that you'll see, and South America. Now, as I mentioned, many uh, groups of peoples you have been using them medicinally, so they're making use of them. And in Costa Rica, they call like that specific species, the one that makes the babies on the edges, they call them mala madre, which is bad mother, because she abandons she abandons her babies. So that is like the lore associated with that common name, um, because she'll drop all of her babies as you move her, or even in the wind, right? So, just a fun fact. Now they are succulents, but again, as I mentioned, while you can find some kalanchoes that have thicker leaves that are a little bit more um, durable, I'll say. I think durable might be a good word, or versatile. There are some that definitely can put up with higher light conditions, for instance, that can deal with longer periods of drought. Um, but for the most part, a lot of them have, thinner leaves, and they do appreciate, having well drained soil. So, root rot is very prevalent with kalanchoes. So you want to make sure that your soil is very aerated. And you see this mister over here. Hey, hey, hey. No, hold on. I'm gonna move my desk forward, and then I'm gonna move my chair forward. I'm gonna scooch. Hold on, so that he can't get to the plant. I don't know why. He's really, in the last couple weeks, he's taken such an interest in the plants, but then he tips them over. So even this morning, um, he tipped over one of the plants and he made a complete mess of gravel and soil. I have like a little carpet under my desk, and it was a mess. So I have to pull him away, because he will bring them down. Um, but yes, so airy, yeah, very airy mix. So you don't want the soil to be really brown and dense. That is the opposite of what you want to have. You want to have some soil. Yes, I mean they do appreciate some organic matter. Especially like, let's say, windows thrill. So they do appreciate, some of that extra moisture. Sometimes you can add like some small pieces of orchid bark, for instance. They appreciate that. Um, Others don't mind too much. So like my favorites, like the copper spoon or even like the silver spoons, they don't really mind too much about orchid bark. But the Windows Thrill definitely appreciates that. But as long as it's just very airy, you're not letting it doesn't look like mud. There's a lot of perlite in there. If you don't have perlite, you can try pumice. Leca is another option as well. Um, I would avoid adding any vermiculite. Don't add vermiculite in there. That's going to retain more water. In terms of things like if you're saying, well, I don't have, what about like coco coir? You can add like a little bit of coco coir, but if you can get your hands on kind of like a base succulent soil and then just add from there, that just ends up kind of being the more cost effective way of doing it. If you want to go the route of just buying each of the individual parts and then mixing your own soils and then adding like aggregates yourself, so like getting like a base potting soil and then from there mixing in things, you could do that. But I think if you can just get like a good succulent soil and then add perlite, you should be good to go. So, yeah, and these are pretty long lived. They also propagate very easily. So if you lose a leaf in the process or anything like that, you could definitely grow it, grow more. So they're very cool, very easy. And this is a mix that would work for a lot of succulents. So you don't have to worry if you're like, oh, well, I have a pre-mixed kind of succulent mix that I use, let's say, for my jade plant and things like that. That would work great for a kalanchoe. Even mixes that might work really well for epiphytic cacti. Um, so like let's say you have like holiday cacti or an orchid cactus, things like that. That mix tends to work pretty well with kalanchoe. Oops, where did it go? There we go. It just threw me back to the front. So we're talking about watering. So they do want to dry. I do recommend bottom watering kalanchoes. You don't really want to get the leaves wet. There are a lot of kalanchoes too. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Hold on one second. There we go. Sorry. There are a lot of kalanchoes, like let's say the panda, chocolate soldier. There you go. There might be a third one coming. They usually come in threes. Um, but they sometimes have hairs on them, and this can mean that um, if they do get any water droplets on them, it's harder for it to escape. It kind of gets trapped. This can cause rotting on the leaves. So just be very wary that you're not misting it. Like this is not a plant that you really want to mist. So don't worry about that. And yes, and letting them dry out. Now in the summers, now if you have the plant outside, that's different. You might find yourself watering that much more often because it's going to be drying out really quickly. But if you have it indoors, maybe about every 10 days or even 2 weeks is fine for watering it. You can keep it really happy. Um, and depending on the winter, if it's pretty warm in your place, you can keep up with the 2 weeks. That's fine. But if it's a little colder in your home, like there's a notable drop in temperature, you could extend that to about 3 weeks. You can kind of see how your plant is looking. They do get a little wrinkly, so depending on the kalanchoe, but some of them do kind of show that they're a little thirsty. So you kind of want to watch your plant and see. But in the winter, most of the time, you want to kind of space out your watering just a little bit, and also maybe not give as much as you would usually, because a lot of plants, because it's so cold, they're not in an active growing stage. Some plants go into dormancy, some plants do not. So not all plants go into dormancy. Um, and also, it's very different if your home is kept really warm, if it's kept at like 70 degrees, and if you have grow lights and things like that. Plants can very easily be tricked into thinking, hey, it's still the growing season. I'm all good. And then you would just keep up your current, watering schedule, because your plant has no idea that there has been a change in the season. Um, so it's really about kind of, watching your plants, and if there is a drastic difference, then you can make some changes. But if you're like, no, my indoor plants probably don't even know that it's the dead of winter, in some places it's really warm in here. They're none the wiser, then keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to kind of alter your care there. And in terms of what water, someone just asked if I have to you have to give them any special type of water. No. Um, uh, in terms of like distilled water, honestly, that tends to be more so for plants like carnivorous plants. Um, the uh, these honestly do really fine with tap. they, they do fine with tap. You could let your water sit overnight, and that tends to help let any chlorine evaporate. So you could do that. That's relatively easy. So you don't have to get any like special water or anything like that for these. They really will do fine with tap. Now, if you have very hard water, I would suggest, if it starts to build up, you would see it build up in the soil. It kind of looks like there's like a crusty, like a white crust. Then you can give it like a good rinse. You wait until it's time to water again. So don't give it a rinse when it's still wet. But definitely if it's time to water, and then you can do that. You can give it like a nice rinse. So don't worry about that. In terms of lighting, so uh, there are a few that can really be in stronger light and they're totally fine. You don't have to worry about them burning. They're totally fine. Like my copper spoons are directly in a Western light. The same with my red dragon, my Kalanchoe red dragon. They're both in direct path of a Western light, Western window. Totally happy. So they are fine. They haven't gotten scorched or anything. So if you know they're doing great. Other Kalanchoes though, I've noticed because I've tried putting like chocolate soldiers and panda plants in that window and they don't do well. Um, so there are a couple Kalanchoes that just would prefer um, to be kind of either pulled back from a western window or a southern window. But they do like light. They definitely want bright indirect light. But there's just a couple like the windows thrill, right? They are definitely window plants. But they do really well in eastern windows. Northern windows might be a little too, the light might be a little too gentle, so you might see some etiolation, which is when it starts to stretch. But eastern windows are great. And you could keep them in western windows, but in the evenings, western light, you tend to get what is called golden hour. So it's like around 4, 5 p.m., depending on where you are. When the sun kind of gets to a certain angle, it like blasts the light through that window, and that can cause burning for some plants because it's a pretty intense amount of light for a short period of time, but it could still cause a little damage. So if you try having your plant in a western window and it starts to look like it got burnt, it could be that. So some ways to mitigate that is if you are home, you can simply move the plant back like around 4 so that you don't have to worry about that. So it's kind of like in the window from when you wake up until early evening. Or you could have a sheer curtain as well. So that helps diffuse the light so that it's not as strong. And then the plant tends to do a whole lot better than if it was just right up against the glass during that time. I've seen some plants get really scorched in western windows. You would think it might happen. It does happen a lot more in southern windows, of course, but it can happen in western windows. Um, Also, they don't necessarily like excessive heat. So if you have your window with a heater, just be wary of that. They might dry out faster, which means you might have to water them a little bit more often, and that's fine. Um, but you don't want to keep them on a heater, definitely not. Um, and sometimes if it just gets really hot, this might just cause them to kind of shrivel up pretty much if you're not kind of attentive about their watering needs. Also freezing. So they are not cold hardy. They can put up with some pretty cold temperatures. I mean, there are some that it can drop into like the 50 and they're totally like even 45, 50 and they're totally fine. But they really can't withstand freezing. Uh, that's not a good time for a calico. So they might start to rot because they'll freeze and then they'll start to rot. And it's just, yeah, it's kind of done though for the plant. So yeah. Also the I put too much heat can cause a leaf drop. So if you have one of those kalanchoes that is very like leafy, when the plant is losing a lot of water, and it can't it's basically it's taking too much to keep itself going. It can sometimes drop leaves as a way of kind of like saving resources because leaves are also a way that a plant can also lose water because through processes one of respiration it starts to release some water that wasn't used, or while it's actually photosynthesizing it's using water during that process. And so it's trying to kind of keep itself from overworking itself and completely depleting its hydration stores, right? So it's like, all right, it starts dropping leaves. So if you're like, oh yeah, that window has been really hot because there's a heater there and you see a lot of leaf drop, you can move the plant from there because it's probably just getting way too hot and it's drying out really, really quickly. In terms of fertilizing, I would go the gentle route. These don't like those um, kind of commercial, fertilizers that um, you add kind of to other different types of plants, like aeroids or things like that. Um, so they don't want very high nitrogen. This can actually burn the roots. So I would say, worm castings honestly is super easy. Um, Compost as well. But just keep in mind that like compost, worm castings, you don't want to go really hard. You don't want to add like a lot. You want to add honestly like pinches. You don't want to put too much because it does retain a lot of extra water. So you don't want to do that to your kalanchoe. So just a little sprinkle. And you can do it on top of the soil, so you don't have to worry like, oh my God, I need to repot it so that I can add worm castings. You absolutely don't need to do that. You can just sprinkle a little bit on top. And as you water, it will just penetrate and go further in. And you don't have to worry about that. And it's very gentle. So honestly, that's probably the most surefire way to not hurt the plant. But if you do end up going, hey, I want to get like a powdered fertilizer that is kind of like an all-purpose that I can use with different types of plants. Just always kind of check because there are certain plants that need specific types of fertilizers. For instance, like bromeliads, it's a totally different fertilizer than you would use for some more common house plants, like let's say an alocasia. It's totally different type because they can't absorb nitrogen in the same way that these other plants do because they're epiphytic plants. And they actually absorb like nitrogen in a different state through their leaves. So it's a very different mechanism at play there. So do always double check because sometimes there's also fertilizers that are made specifically for different types of plants. So for instance, like African violets, their African violets have been a very common house plant for well over a century, um, and and they have their own fertilizer. So you don't even have to worry about it. You can just buy it specifically for African violets, for instance, and you're good. But if you end up going, hey, I really want like an all-purpose one, I would recommend one that has a lower nitrogen, like lower, so there's NPK. Um, so I would go with a lower amount of nitrogen. So it's yeah, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So you want to go with a lower nitrogen. And if you possibly can, find one that's urea free. So that's also going to lessen the chance that your plant is going to get burned. Because sometimes some fertilizers can get on the leaves and that can actually burn the plant as well. So you want to be very mindful of that. So if you're ever, let's say, fertilizing your garden, for instance, and it's one of those that you mix with water and you kind of like water your garden with it, don't spray your plants with it if it's not one that's meant for that. There are some fertilizers that it's kind of like it encourages you to spray them on the leaves. It says it's safe for the leaves. But if it doesn't say that, I would avoid it. So just kind of aim low to that base of the soil, just there rather than spraying on the leaves because you might end up burning them. It's because a lot of fertilizers are very high in salts, and so salts can kind of pull water away. So if your leaves are a little dehydrated or if your roots are a little dehydrated, it can actually pull more water away and ultimately burning, kind of like scorching the plant material. Also, when you are gonna water, fertilize your plant, especially if if you're using one of those water-like fertilizers, this isn't the case for worm castings or if you're going to sprinkle a little compost or anything like that. You don't have to worry about that. But if you're using one of those like commercial fertilizers that you mix with water, you dilute it. One, dilute extra. I always say dilute extra. If it says to dilute like 4 times, dilute 6 times just to be safe. But again, as I mentioned, your plant, if it's dehydrated, it would do a lot like worse with the fertilizer. So let's say it's time to water your plants, but you're like, oh, well, I want to fertilize, but it's been 2 weeks. You don't want to just use the fertilizer water right then and there. What you want to do is add just a little bit of water to your plant, maybe a quarter or even up to half of what you would usually water it, just and wait 24 hours. So it's just for it to get a little bit more hydrated, and then you add that liquid fertilizer that's mixed with water, so that again, it's it's kind of like just pushing down that risk level that you're gonna burn your plant. Yeah, and in terms of like frequency, they really don't need to be fertilized that much. You could probably do like once a year, twice a year at the most. I would not recommend more than once a month, even if it's like actively growing. I would say, keep it again. You don't want to overdo it. They don't come from very like areas, where there's a lot of like nutritional value in the soil, so they're not very sensitive too much to the, to not getting fertilizer. So don't worry about that. In terms of blooming, there are some really gorgeous Kalanchoe flowers. Absolutely beautiful. These are more Windows Thrill. I just kind of wanted to show some of the color range. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Um, there's just so much variety, not only in the type of flower, because sometimes they look like little stars and sometimes they look like roses. I mean, absolutely beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Now, if you're just tuning in, if you tuned in late, I did mention at the beginning. So, the Kalanchoe is toxic, but a lot of those toxins are actually in the flowers themselves. So if you have any small children or pets and you get Windows Thrill, let's say you see it at the local supermarket because it's a very common supermarket plant, and you decide to get it, just be wary that none of the flowers, might fall on the floor or anything like that where it would be within reach of a child or a pet. Dogs are actually very susceptible to the flowers. They can cause heart issues. So just be wary of the flowers. While they are very pretty to look at, you definitely want to make sure that they are not getting, eaten in any way by your pets or a small child. Um, Now, in terms of timing, so you might see like during the like late summer or even in the fall that if they had any flowers during the summer, they might start kind of dropping their buds and looking kind of plain. Now, not all Kalanchoes are quick to flower indoors, but some do, and they're very pretty. Windows Thrill, for instance, you can kind of re-trigger it to flower pretty readily if you're keeping it nice and happy. And in terms of triggering, they tend to just start to sense as the days get longer. So it's going to be like late winter, early spring. It's kind of like the lengthening of days, the longer days, getting more sun, more periods of sun, so more hours um, of sun will trigger them to start to produce more buds and then to bloom. And some of them, like Windows Thrill, they can bloom pretty consecutively. Like they'll have one huge kind of bouquet, like a whole bundle of flowers that is um, flowering, and then yeah, they'll keep like a whole other cluster will start to bloom like right after that, And so you could very easily have a blooming plant for a couple weeks. So it's not one of those that it like flowers for 24 hours or something like that. That's an unfortunate reality when you have a lot of cacti. I have a lot of cacti, and a lot of cacti flowers. They're, they're ephemeral, like they're very quick. It's very quickly. They're either like a day or a couple days, and then that's it. That flower is gone. But you can enjoy these a little bit longer. In terms of propagation, so I had mentioned earlier that there are some species that propagate uh, through this process where they create these little plantlets along the sides of the leaves. So this is something you see especially in mother of thousands and mother of millions. And as I mentioned, in Costa Rica and some parts of Central America, they call them mala madre. So you can see here those little plantlets. You can see actually some of those little roots that I was talking about. So they will develop these little roots, and then they fall from the mother plant and either fall into another pot or into the soil directly under her. They take root, and then they continue growing, and the cycle just keeps going. So this is a form of asexual reproduction. So they are clones of the mother. They are complete clones of the mother. Though you can still bring kalanchoes, you can cross-pollinate them and bring them to feed, but these will readily propagate this way. So it's a very cool method that some of these kalanchoes use, but not all kalanchoes do this. But they are very easy to propagate. Hello, sir. Sorry, Maple is coming onto my chair again. Um, but you're able to, leaf cuttings do really well. You can do stem cuttings, crown cuttings, just like the very top, and continue, root it and continue spreading it. So they're very quick. Um, yeah, they're really cool. It's very easy. Similar to chryssulas, so like jade plants, they're very quick to propagate via cuttings and leaves, so you don't have to worry about that. Oops. Here's a close up, so you could just see how some of those plantlets are attached to the leaf. Um, and they really are just like miniature, teeny tiny little plants. These don't have their roots yet, but they will start to develop roots. And once they do so, that adhesion to the leaf gets kind of thinner and thinner until it's like almost like it kind of like separates, kind of cuts off the baby. And when it's ready, and it just drops. Or it's, if it's loose, it'll get picked up by the wind and sent a little farther away. Now, what kind of pest does it get? It can get a couple common ones. I mean, I've seen kalanchoes get spider mites, but they are very resilient. So I will mention that they are very resilient. So I've seen kalanchoes get spider mites and do really well. Like the only reason you would know that they're spider mites is because of the webs. Uh, but then you treat it and it's pretty fine. It bounces back very quickly. And I've seen this happen with mealybugs. So I think mealybugs are probably the most um what you would have to be the most wary of if you have kalanchoes, even chryssulas. So mealies really like these kind of more chunkier succulents. They really seem to like them. So if the Hoyas, oh my gosh, Hoyas too. So mealies, they you might end up dealing with them, but it's not a death sentence to your plant. So it's definitely something that your kalanchoe can bounce back from. Uh, what I like to do is I use rubbing alcohol. So I have 70% rubbing alcohol. I don't dilute it. If you are more comfortable diluting it, I would say, definitely do so. You can do a test spot on your plants if you've never used rubbing alcohol on them, and just to just to see, if your plant doesn't react badly. I've never had a plant react badly. I've sprayed rubbing alcohol even on like begonias, and they're totally fine. But every plant is different, so definitely double check on your plant. Maybe your plant doesn't very much like it, so be careful there. But rubbing alcohol honestly is like the best to get rid of mealies. So you can really spray the whole plant down, and then use Q-tips that you can spray or dip into rubbing alcohol, and then kind of go in there and like really get into the crevices. Um, and then you can go ahead and do that like once a week, for up to 10 weeks, I would say, to make sure. Even if you don't see anything, just do it. Even if you're like, oh, it's week 5 and I see nothing, keep doing it because there might be babies in there. So you want to spray it down, really go in there with a Q-tip, make sure that you're really kind of going in and going into the crevices so that you get any last babies or egg sacs that might be in there. Um, yeah, and Kalanchoe's really, they just bounce right back. They're like, oh, okay. Uh, so it would have to be really bad. It would have to be like, let's say you went away for like a month, and you just had somebody come and water your plants like once while you were gone. Uh, that might take a lot out of your plant. But if catch it, if you kind of make it like a routinely thing where when you water it, give it a really good inspection. With a lot of Kalanchoes, you're going to end up watering them about every 2 weeks. So it's a really good opportunity. You have your plant in front of you, just give it a really good look. Use your phone flashlight if you want to. Just give it a good once over in case there's anything odd. I like to, when I'm watering my plants, I like to spray them down with rubbing alcohol, even if I see nothing on there, just to be safe. I kind of go do 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 really quick spritz, and yeah. I also mentioned root rot, but they're also prone to fungus, and this can be if you have them in, let's say you have a really high humidity environment. You have maybe some plants that are, much more tropical, let's say. If the air is kind of stagnant, right, there isn't really good airflow, they tend to hold onto water a lot more often, and this can cause root rot. They might start to show signs of like fungus and things like that. Um, so they do want to dry out completely. So make sure that they're in a environment that would allow them to do so. And as I mentioned, so they are toxic. So while they are being used like medicinally in very careful ways, you don't want to go around and like actually just like, you know, eat this plant, or have it accessible to tiny humans, or your pets. It really can be severe, and so it's the flowers especially, and so they have similar cardiotoxins that you can find in like foxglove, different plants like oleander, yew as well, like YEU. Um, so just certain compounds that can cause like cardiac arrest. It can cause your heart rate to slow down. Um, and so be very very careful about that. And especially for pets, if you're here in the US, there is a poison control center for pets, just as there is for humans, but usually folks know for the one for the humans and not the one for the pets. So I threw that in there. And then some medical, I just wanted to medicinal, I kind of wanted just to share a little bit more on that. So yes, it's the Brasiliensis, there you go. Uh, that I wasn't aware of. I was aware of the Pinada, but apparently in Central America and in South America, they're used pretty interchangeably. And so so here are some herbal action terminologies here. So anodyne is something that is placed on the skin, usually to alleviate pain. So this tends to be like for headaches, and this is actually one reason that this is used. So the leaves are actually kind of crushed, they're mashed, and then applied to the skin. And some it can be used for headaches. Antiherpetic, so that means that something for skin eruption, so like problems of the skin, infections on the skin. Uh, so it can be used for that as well. Um, but also for bruises and sprains. So it tends to be very alleviating, like anti-inflammatory, and helpful in that respect. But then I learned that it's also antiseptic and astringent, so it's very drying to an area, and hemostatic, which means that would also stop bleeding. So it kind of helps if there's like a cut and you, let's say you skinned your knee and it's swollen. It's something that's actually applied that will not only stop the bleeding, but will also alleviate the swelling and help promote healing in the area. In terms of taking it internally, according to the book, you can actually chop the leaves and put it into 1 liter of water that's actually infused overnight and then taken. But it does advise very strongly not to use the flowers of the plant. Now, I would not do this out of without like the oversight of a medical professional. Because again, these plants are toxic. So I wouldn't, even though the book kind of talks about how it's used, I would definitely not recommend that you go ahead and try this without without the oversight of a medical professional. But I just wanted to kind of share that there is some traditional uses for some kalanchoes that might you might not otherwise know. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. And I think that was that. And then I will talk a little bit about, oh, here is just a photo of the Kalanchoe pinnata, which is also called like miracle leaf or life everlasting. So, I mean, with common names like that, so you can understand why it's being used medicinally, and it's wow. You can see why it's really beautiful. And again, that scalloped edge that is very common in some kalanchoes. Oh, why did it do this? Hold on. I'm trying to do. Where are you? There we go. And this is the one in South America that is being used. Brasiliensis. Brasiliensis. There you go. It's hard. It doesn't like necessarily roll off the tongue there. Brasiliensis. There you go. So yeah, just wanted to share that. And yeah, and then I'll grab a couple and show you some kalanchoes. But yeah, next week will be a Q&A. And for those of you that don't know, so it is winter in our hemisphere, but um, if folks do want to still send plants or share plants before it gets super cold, I think we're getting a cold front. I know it snowed in Wisconsin. It's snowing in some areas. Uh, so well, I'm gonna hold off, for like the next week or so. But if we end up having a more milder winter, I'm not sure if we are going to. Folks might still be able to share. But check that out. Um, I actually have some holiday cacti that I'm starting to root. So some little cuttings I took. So let's see if they root successfully and stuff, then I'll have some Thanksgiving cacti to share. And I don't know why this keeps going. There we go. So yeah, so this is a free class. But if you want to help me continue doing this, if you want to buy me a coffee, anything like that, feel free. That is the Venmo. Um, feel free to do so. Every little bit is, of course, appreciated. Um, I do have the Patreon. Folks had asked me to set one up, and I did. So, definitely check that out. I'm hoping that as I'm going to be doing some more filming, I'm actually going hopefully this Friday. So if you're actually in New York City, let me know. I'd love to organize maybe something where I can go with some students. There is an exhibit at the Morgan Library Museum. Hello, sir. What are you doing? Uh-uh. No. No. No, 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 no. Get down. Get down. Brian. Brian. Oh my God, this is horrible. He's literally on it. Brian. Oh my gosh. He is on he is on the ledge and he's gonna bring everything down. Hold on. Watch his feet. His feet. His feet. His feet. His feet. His feet. Oh my gosh. That could have been so bad because I have so many cuttings here with mixes of pawn. I really don't know why he's so hell bent on whoops on stepping on those plants. I really don't know. But yes, there are some exhibits. There's one, for instance, at the Morgan Library Museum that's all about herbals, and it's like ancient herbals, and they're showcasing some really cool books and stuff. So I'd love to, explore these things with any of my students that are here in New York City. So reach out because I'd love to kind of grow and go in a group and stuff like that. So that'd be fun. And yeah, and I'm hoping that I have more time this upcoming year to start putting out some of all this footage, edited footage, these tours and things that I've been recording and stuff. So I'll have some more content for folks. Um, yeah, and I really don't know why. Oh, and then the Amazon shopping list. So if anyone is interested in kind of checking out some cool plant tools and like doodads and uh potting mix additives and things like that, check out the shopping list. This is not affiliate based. There we go. So it's just some things that I've bought myself that I like that have been added to that list. And so check that out if that's helpful. Maple, I don't know. I'm gonna like lock you in the bedroom or something at this point. I don't know. He needs to like walk on those plants and I don't understand why. Whoops. But yeah, I'll just shut this off here and I'll show you some plants. But if you do want to reach out, info@urbangarden.eco. You can check out Instagram, check out the website. I need to do some updates on that website. um, but if you want to check out a little bit more. And yeah, so let me undo the share screen. Here we go. Here we go. And Deanna, do they need that full sun exposure? Yes, it just depends on the Kalanchoe. So some do very much appreciate full sun exposure. So like I have like my copper spoons. Um I love that's my favorite Kalanchoe. I'll bring it actually to show you. Let me do, 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 do. I feel like I have to go through a jungle when I grab plants from my western window because I have my uh, El Chaco Red, and it has such big leaves that I have to move to the side before I can make my way past. And so it always feels like I'm going through a jungle. But here's just an example. This one, these are my favorite type of Kalanchoes. So this is the copper spoon. I have another baby one back here. And then I have another one in my bed in the bedroom. So these I love. So this is the baby, and it has new growth coming in the center. You can see these two leaves they're coming. But this one is my favorite. Um, so beautiful. It has like this olive tone um to the leaf that in full sun it turns this really beautiful copper color, and the undersides is this really pretty silver. So the silver spoon, so this is the copper spoon. The silver spoon is basically the same plant. It just doesn't turn copper. So from my understanding, it's just a variety of the same species. And so that base color kind of stays like that. So it's like silver on the underside and silver on the top side. So they call them silver spoons instead of copper spoons. But these are so beautiful. I love these so much. They're just such a cool plant. This plant has been so forgiving. I keep this one directly in a western window right up against the glass. So this one's been great, but I have gone where I have forgot to water her for like, 3 weeks. I think I've even gone like a month forgetting to water her. And she's been fine and she just keeps growing. And she's just so beautiful. So, so beautiful. I actually rooted when I first bought her a while ago. One of her leaves had snapped off in the bag when I bought her, and I was so sad because it was like a really big leaf. I think it was like one. I think that's the scar. It was like a really big leaf here, and I rooted it, and I was able to actually swap it during a plant swap, and because it started growing. But yeah, this is one of my favorites. But this one really can withstand like full sun, definitely. Um, yes, Holly says sounds like chamomile. Many ways you can say the name. Oh yes, chamomile. What chamomile? Chamomile. Oh, definitely. Teresa. Ah, thanks. Oh no, I think I'm killing mine, so this is so helpful. I get most of my plants at Trader Joe's. Uh, aw, oh, thank you so much for the kind words. Seriously. Aw, thank you. That means so much. I truly appreciate that. Yeah, like and these are definitely Kalanchoes. You will totally find them at like Trader Joe's. You'll find them at like Target, um, Kroger's. You'll probably find them. They're one of those plants that it's like, yeah, they end up being found in a lot of like grocery stores and things like that. Um, so they aren't very difficult to find if you're looking, even if it's just one type of Kalanchoe. Um, but yeah, this one is my favorite, definitely. Because it's just so beautiful. It's so, so beautiful. And I just love how copper tone they can get with more sunlight. And then this is my red dragon kalanchoe. Really like this one. It gets this kind of burgundy sun stress. This is all new growth. So I got this one like in the spring. So it's only almost been a year here, and it had a lot of like leaves at the base. Um, and it does have that red kind of color to it, but it really during the summer it just had like an explosion of new growth on top. So as the leaves get bigger, they end up kind of flopping down this way. So like these leaves were new too, the top kind of layer here. And so as the leaves get bigger, they kind of just end up layering on top. And yeah, it's been doing really well in my western window. Really beautiful. It's a different Kalanchoe because I thought it was a Crassula when I bought it. But no, it's a Kalanchoe. It's called a red dragon. It's looking more green right now, and it's in full sun. So it isn't looking as red as I would assume the red dragon is supposed to be. It's right now it's a green dragon with a little bit of red. Um, and then this kalanchoe, I'll just take it out of the display pot. But the oak leaf kalanchoe, so this is just an example of one of those furry kalanchoes. It's like super velvety. I'm not sure if you can't really see it on camera, but they're covered in like this silver kind of fuzz. Um, Now this pot I bought a few weeks ago, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Um, and it was like $4. And so I was like, I definitely want to get this because there are so many plants in here. So it's been, you know, kind of getting used to the home. There is new growth coming in. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna be separating these out. So they're not, it's way too cramped in here. So, um, what happens is that when they're propagating them, they'll kind of throw a couple leaves into the pot. They start to make their own little plants, and then they kind of leave them like that. So, I'm looking forward to separating them because there's at least like 4 plants in here. Um, but I really just like how soft these are. Very cool, and I love the leaves. They're a very cool calico. But yeah, and Terry says I have a huge pot of calanchoes, some as tall as 20 inches. Oh my gosh! However, these never flower, need little care though. Yes. Um, so they're one of those plants that it's like, give them water, and you can forget about them. So they are they're much more laid back. And I just really appreciate like the variety. So I definitely wanted to share more about them because some folks might not know about calanchoes, because there's so many different types. There's just so many different types. It's like the chryssulas, like jades. There's so many different types, even just jades themselves. Oh man, I had gotten a little one years ago of a sunrise jade, and so it's like yellow and orange because it's variegated. And I think I put it into my southeast window, and I think that might have been a bad decision because it looked like it had gotten burned. And it was a tiny one. It was and I regret like not figuring out its care because I want to get another one day. It was so beautiful. But yeah, there's so many fun succulents. So I'm definitely pushing the succulents because I love them so much, and so definitely, yeah, I wanted to share that. Um, yeah. And Diana, do the pups have the same blooming characteristics as the mother plant? That's a great question. Yes. Um, so let's say for the mother of millions or the mother of thousands, yeah, those are exact genetic clones. Let's say if your Windows thrill, if you start to let's say a leaf or something breaks off and you begin like a whole new plant. So from my understanding, they are not adding any like color additives to those flowers. Um, so that does happen. So in case some folks don't know, certain house plants, some of these flowers that are like very odd colors, especially, there's something that's either being added to the water or directly injected into the plant. This is actually very typical with orchids. So specifically Phalaenopsis, the moth orchids. I almost said math. The moth orchids, it's very common. They're actually injected with dyes. And so it's usually like the whites or the kind of cream colored or light pink Phalaenopsis are injected with color to make them look like really crazy, like neon colors and things like that. And then people wonder when those buds die off and the plant starts to produce brand new bulbs, and then flower buds, and then they're white or like cream, and they're like, I bought a bright blue orchid, and it's like, no, that was artificial. So, but I don't think they do that with Cal and Coe, so you don't have to worry about that. So, I believe that yes, if the pups that are generated, let's say from like Windows Thrill or something like that, they would definitely have the same flower color. I would believe so. Yeah. Um, Iris asks, is holiday cacti are they toxic to pets? From my understanding, I don't think they are. I think that they are safe. Um, I will double check, but I believe they are safe. Um, I think they are. They're one of those that are, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So um I just Googled it and then it made me remember. So it says that no, it's non-toxic. It's small pieces might cause some gastric distress. And then I remembered why. So yes, they are non-toxic, so they're not poisonous. However, holiday cacti, they're very fibrous. So like the inside of because so it's a let me where's my holiday? I'm gonna grab one just to oh here we go. I was just watering this guy. So I'll show here. It just finished blooming. Um and so for instance, so these are actually the cladodes. They're flattened, they're modified stems, so they're not true leaves. But these are very fibrous, like inside. And so what happens is that if a pet were to eat them, um, when it comes to digesting them, it's really tough. Like it's literally tough. It's hard to break down. And so it might end up causing some gastric distress to your pet. So like to your dog or your cat, it will irritate their gut. But honestly, I mean, I would rather, you know, a little bit a tummy upset than something that's super toxic, right? So yeah. So it's technically safe. It might they might not have a very good day if they go ahead and eat a big chunk of it, but it would be safe. It would definitely be safe to have around your pets. So you don't have to worry about that. Holly, it snowed here all day on Sunday, and the ground is not cold enough for the snow to stick, though. Oh man. It hasn't snowed here in the city yet. Apparently, it has snowed upstate. So it looks very overcast today, and we have been getting reports that we're getting like a really big influx of cold weather, which I'm not looking forward to. It's pretty toasty in here. Right now it is 72 degrees. I have to take out the humidifiers because it's right now it says it's only 36 percent humidity. So we did have a pretty big dip in humidity. I like to keep it like 40 to 50 in here. So I definitely have to dust off the humidifiers because they've been away like all summer because it was so humid here this summer. But yeah, I think it is time. It is time for me to do that. Teresa says in Grand Rapids it's snowing right now. Oh man. Yeah. Yes, and Doug, yes, holiday cactus is so holiday cacti are is kind of like a catch-all name for Christmas cacti, Thanksgiving cacti, which are Schlumbergias. And then the Easter cacti, it was thought to be a Schlumbergia, but it's actually, I think it's been reclassified like twice. So I think now it's Rip Ripsalidopsis, something like that. So not like Ripsalis, but like Ripsalidopsis or Ripsalis pseudoopsis, something like that. Um, but otherwise Easter cactus. But that little group of three are usually called holiday cacti. So it's kind of like a catch-all name for them. And so and it's because they bloom during the holidays. So Thanksgiving cacti tend to bloom towards the end of November here in the northern hemisphere. Um, Christmas cacti do the same. It's they're triggered by cooling temps and shorter days. So they start to bloom in the winter here. And then yeah, in during like Easter time, that's when the other cactus tends to bloom. So so yeah. Um so Deanna asked, does your kalanchoe make pups along the leaves too? So no, these don't. So this one, like the copper spoon, does not generate babies on the edges. So not all of them do. Mother of Millions, Mother of Thousands does. But these guys don't. Their leaves readily propagate, and yeah, so you can definitely do that. You could also, if let's say you wanted to, you could do like a crown cutting. So like cutting right here, and starting a brand new plant that way. Absolutely. You can totally do that. They they will they will grow readily. They are such a neat plant. Holly says, I didn't know the name. I've been seeing this plant. Oh yeah. Yeah, they are very cool. Jamie says, I have a small kalanchoe from the grocery store. It has small rounded leaves, thin with some serration at the ends. Um, it was flowering when I got it, but never again. It got leggy. I made a new cutting, put it in my west window, mostly sun, and it's growing leggy again. Yeah, so there are some kalanchoes that just the way that they grow, I've seen like I think it's Millions, Mother of Millions. Even in my western window, I've seen them grow like they get kind of scraggly. Um, and I've seen this actually in the wild too. They're growing, but they kind of like looks like a little thicket. Um, and so, yeah, and so I don't know if it's because, if they need more like overhead light, so that could be it. And that the window, so they're kind of growing like they're just moving towards the light. I don't know what it is. That sounds like it might be a Mother of Millions, because they have that look. There's actually this Kalanchoe which I'm not sure. So, well, let me grab this one. So these are some cuttings that I've been propagating. So this is an example of the panda plant. So this is Kalanchoe tomentosa. So if you ever see tomentosa in the name, it means furry. It means soft. And so very, very furry. And you see these little black tips. So it's kind of straight, and then it has these little serrations here on the tip, and it has those two new leaves that are coming in. Um, really silver, really, really fluffy. I really like this plant. So they also call them panda plants. But you will see some that are literally it's the same plant, but it has like a lot of brown, kind of because it starts to turn copper, kind of like the copper spoon. And so they call them chocolate soldiers. So you might know it as a chocolate soldier instead of a panda plant. Um, but yeah, these are super neat, really cool little kalanchoe. But there's this kalanchoe which I have to find out what it is. Hold on, it's getting tangled up with this other plant here. Here we go. And this one I am not sure what it is. I have to look through more. I thought that it was a like some type of Mother of Millions or um like Mother of Thousands, but I'm not quite sure. It is a kalanchoe, and it's the underside is really red, while the top side is green, which was very different. It came in a box of cuttings that I had gotten. A lot of these are from those that kind of shipment. But I'm really not sure what this guy is, but it is a Kalanchoe. Um, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna try to find out. But it's already starting to put growth out in the middle. There's like a little nub. Maybe you might be able to see there. Yeah. So it's gonna start to put out another pair of leaves. But it's been rooting really well in some pond. So so far so good. So far so good. Um oh, what have I used for substrate? Yeah, so this is a mix of pond with horticultural charcoal. Um and I think I threw in a little bit of bonsai lava rock. Um it's a bonsai mix that was like some different types of lava rock. So I did like a really different mix. So pond, lava, like the lava rock with some horticultural charcoal. And I put all of these, there's you can see them these rows right here are all these propagations like this. So this was a new mix that I was experimenting with. So a lot of my other plants that I have growing like these guys, it's leca. There are some plants that I'm growing in the bathroom that I've switched to ceramsite. So I think only one plant here I switched to ceramsite, which are these like little balls. Um, but yeah, I like experimenting with different mixes and seeing what works. So yeah, so this is a mix that I've been using now um for the last few months with these propagations. And so these are shot glasses that I bought, but like they're like that hard plastic. And I made holes on the base and along the edges here. There's a couple holes. And so what I do is this is like a little reservoir. And so I go and I use a squirt bottle and I give it a nice water and I let the excess water kind of drain into here and I leave it like that. So these are actually up for watering because they're completely dry. I meant to do it this weekend, did not have time with the holidays and all that. So these are getting watered today. So, um, but yeah, this is a little setup that I've been working with that has been working really well. They've been rooting really nicely. So yeah, yeah. Ah, thank you, Deanna. Thank you so much. And yeah, so I hope that that was informative and helpful. It's always fun to put these together. I thought I had done a class on Kalanchoes, and then I realized I was like, no, I've never done a class. I have like a back log of like of notes I've done over the years, and and I was like, oh, I swore I had at one point done a class on Kalanchoes and I was like, no, I didn't. So this was fun putting it together. um, but yeah, thanks so much for hopping on. Again, I hope it was informative. Um, yeah, and I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your wrap up of November. And can't believe it. I think Friday, right? Friday is going to be December. Um, so gosh, it's very, very fast, very, very fast, too fast. So enjoy so much the rest of your Monday, the rest of your week. It's seriously awesome to start my weeks off with you, honestly. So thank you so much. Yeah, and so I will see you next week. So be safe, everyone. And seriously, always fun to hop on here, um, and talk to you about plants and hear your questions. So thank you so much. And yeah, next week will be a Q&A. So anything goes. So yeah, you're very, very welcome. Have a great one, everyone. Bye for now.